regarding the last one that we have, managing Gen Z. So that actually added a lot to our confidence that we can keep on coming with the different and unique ideas. So today we have a very important topic on cards, that is tech as a stressor. So just building on it a bit before I just proceed any further, I think we should welcome our first guest as well, our creative head, Ms. Varda Yusuf. So welcome, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me once again.
Yeah, thanks a lot for taking time out. In fact, so just building on it, it's been like 200 years that humanity, we just first encompassed industrial revolution. We were not actually built for machines. Our eyes were not built for screens, but over the passage of time, we have evolved. All right. So 20 years back, nobody really knew that we'll be carrying screens in our pockets. And in fact, we'll have to put our whole corporate structure around these gadgets. Now, this is part of our daily routine life. The workplace cannot actually thrive without all these gadgets at all. But are we taking any toll on our physical health as well as mental health? Well, that's a truth. Yes, the stress is a different kind of a stress is being caused because of these gadgets. So we are going to discuss all that. However, we will be having a very, very unique guest, a young professional, and he'll be joining us in a short while with the next 5 minutes or so. But before that, let's take some of the views from our first guest. Uh, Yes, Yusuf, could you just elaborate a bit on the topic that we have today?
Absolutely. Hananta, we have been discussing, even leading from the last conversation that we had from our last podcast. We talked about how we were not born into the technology phase really, and we were watching it come through. However, as much as we were immigrants, the kids were getting born after, Gen Z especially and millennials to start off. Eventually, we found them all getting born into a zone or an era which was technologically advanced already. So all they had to do was just be more and more savvier. We had to adopt; they were born into it. So a very
Yeah,
interesting phase. You talked about how this has become something incumbent and mandatory for workplaces also. I think we're all suffering with some backaches, and now science and doctors are talking about how your posture isn't
yeah,
right, how this should be absolutely straight. So there's a lot that's happening. So things that we got to do and we did not sort of develop as, let's just say, deficiencies up until like what, last 5 years, they are being already embedded, and we're watching our own kids growing up with the same face. I mean, I have to tell
exactly right.
my younger one to sit up straight because the bones are coming out, collarbones are no more the same stature, etc., etc. So it's a big hassle. They started using technology pretty earlier than we all did, and but fortunately or unfortunately, as much as it's a help, it's also mandatory for our workplaces. I think what is of more of a discussion these days is about how we can enable, and I think all these technologically advanced people, or let's just say these industries, also working around how to make it smoother and let's just say user friendly for that point
Yeah,
of matter. For example, holographics, etc., etc. So I think we should lead the discussion from there. G.
definitely. And if I add to it, the problem is that technology actually is built by human beings, but it just evolves really fast that even it just we just can't catch up with it that quick. So I mean, we are already cyborgs. This is what I personally believe, because with all what we have, the gadgets, what we can achieve, and 20 years ago our elders could not even think about it, that you have to be always answering some WhatsApp messages, or you're just going to be pinged with email messages that you have to respond straight away. Either you are actually in a wedding ceremony or whatever, because if that is an important case, you have to respond for sure. So that actually affects us on psychological level as well. So there are certain things that we can explore just to make things a lot more convenient for the people. So what do you think about it, that this evolution of technology, has it somehow helped us to evolve on biological level as well? Because let me talk about it. Like when I was 5 years of age, probably way back in 91, 90, and if I compare somebody who was born in 2005, who is actually a digital native, and they actually were in their fifth year when they were in year 2010. So 1990 and 2010, a lot has changed. A lot has changed. We only had televisions, and we were told actually to stay at least have a distance of 8 feet to save your eyes. But what if the eyesight has also started evolving? It has started, building certain strengths and new kind of muscles that we didn't have at that age of 5 years. So maybe these youngsters, they have a different kind of a biological mechanism and how their eyes are actually responding, because from the day one they're exposed to the screens. We weren't, until it was maybe like 15 or 20 years of age. Yeah.
That's very, very true, actually. From the point of view where we're talking about the biological evolution, I think you're very right on point. But at the same time, have you figured out that we are facing a lot of flint in eyes of the children these days, majorly because they are exposed to the screens very early. So as much as the strength is coming in, I understand, but then we're also hearing about people losing eyesight. People are losing eyesight just by using the telephones too much or up to a certain number of hours when there is no light in the room or in darkness. So that is also some area that we have to look into, as much as it might just be strengthening something, So where it is also strengthening us, at the same time, I'm finding that the let's just say the side effects are much more worse than the benefit that we're getting right now.
Benefits.
I
Yeah.
think we, like you said, it's actually now the technological advancement is already at an exponential rate. That is actually not helping us evolve this early as much as the technology that artificially is being evolved,
Yeah.
which is why screens are
Yeah.
higher. I mean, आप देखिए technology has gone from what to 4K now. हम कौन सी स्क्रीन्स की बात करते थे, हम 4K टेक्नोलॉजी पे चले गए ना. The colors are sharp. Even Netflix tells you that this is going to be too much of light. So people who are light or photosensitive need to be careful. So there's a lot that's coming along as well, because we are producing good content, graphics are getting better and better. So maybe the eyes are getting trained too. At the same time, the rate is not proportional. That's what I feel. So the
Yeah.
hazard, or the, let's just say, the side effects that we are posed to are more.
Well, thank you very much for the elaboration. And again, the point is that sitting on the screen, switching the screen, sometimes just sitting in front of the laptop for all day long, and you're carrying your phone as well. So that does have a toll on us. But why shouldn't we ask it to somebody who's younger? I think from the same
Absolutely.
generation. So I think it's time we should invite our actual guest, the person who represents that kind of a generation, the younger generation. So let's welcome Johanna Barekzai. Johanna, you're on.
Professional.
Welcome
Hello, hi.
to the podcast, Johanna. How are you doing?
So thank you so much. Honored to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, great to have
I'm
you
doing
here as
well.
well.
Yeah, I'm doing well. How are both of you doing?
Perfect, perfect. Even great to have you here. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, Anna. So, how's everything going? It's a very nominal question everybody asks. It's the first
Yeah,
up. Is everything going
all,
fine?
all
Perfect.
good. All good. Yeah, all good.
That's good.
Just
That's good. That's good.
just
So, Johanna,
just
just a bit of a background on yourself. I mean, what you're studying, and if you're working somewhere, if you've worked somewhere, just a bit of a background for our viewers to understand who the guest is and know what they're coming up with. Go on.
Right. So I'm an undergrad student. I'm doing my bachelor's in the UK at the University of Reading, studying economics. Part time, I work for a health tech company called Bridgehead Software. I started that at the end of my first year. Continued doing it in my second year, and now I'm looking for a career in investment banking. So I have an internship coming up at JP Morgan at the summer. So while I am a student and primarily that is my main focus, I am heavily
Mhm.
involved in the corporate sector, working because sometimes life in classroom can get boring, and I like to apply different concepts that I learned in class outside of them. So I think that's a little bit of introduction on me.
Well, that's perfect. I mean, you're telling it on to the face two of the teachers here. Tell you what, the classes are bowling. We need to actually look into it.
It's,
Yeah, right. That's
it,
perfect. Okay, yeah. Now, just let's
yeah,
continue with the discussion. We were having a discussion how exactly technology is affecting us, at the workplaces. But we thought that we should have somebody who's a digital native. I mean, somebody who actually opened their eyes with the screens on. See, we adopted it. The technology adopted you, by the way. Okay, your generation. So,
yeah.
what do you think? How it is impacting? And how it is affecting and how it is resulting in the stress levels. What is your take on technology at workplaces right now? And what's your perspective? Just go on.
Yeah, I think just before I go on that, I think 2 points that were mentioned that were really interesting. One was that how we started in terms of our early civilizations. We weren't made for technology, or so we think. We came from hunters, so we were hunting. Then we became farmers, came industrialization, and now we're here right now in the middle of the AI revolution.
Yeah.
And another point that was mentioned as well, which was where not necessarily right now, but a couple of years ago or a couple of decades ago, we had a new technology being introduced every single day, and that's something
Yeah.
that was quoted in the movie Interstellar, which is where this one person said that back in my time, every other day was Christmas. We were having new technology coming in every day.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. So I think that's it's exactly that, right? It's just individuals across the world just striving towards one goal, that is bringing in new technology in order to make the human concept more efficient and productive. As an economist, you look at technology in a very positive sense, because at the end of the day, more technology means you grow, more technology means people get employed, more technology means economic productivity. From that sense, it's brilliant. But from a very personal sense, looking at it individualistically, it has pros and cons. And as Verda said, that I think the side effects are more than the benefits. I think that's an opinion, and I think people might not agree with that, but I, to a certain extent, hold the same view, because I try to tackle technology in a very considerate sense, in a pragmatic sense, because I know the cost that it has. In terms of my productivity, or in terms of how I look at technology, it's been at least in the past a year or two, it's been a magnificent help, because I work at a health tech company that's completely remote. So it's a multi-million-pound company, but there's no physical office space for it. Our CEO, right before COVID hit, or not necessarily right before, but a few weeks or months after, made the very brave decision to get everyone remote, before it was a norm, before it was common for companies to do that. And since then, it's worked magnificently. And for someone like me, who's a part-time worker but a full-time student, it's very convenient, because I can wake up at 7 a.m. Don't want to wake up at 9 a.m., that's too late, but wake up at 7 a.m., get on to work at 9, and from 9 to 12 or 9 to 1, I could work for 3-4 hours a day, and then in the afternoon I can go for class. Now the difference is, I don't necessarily need to go to an office 10-15 minutes away from my house. I can just open my laptop and start working on it. As soon as I'm done, I close my laptop, I start studying for class, or I go to the university. It has made my life extremely efficient, because if you think about a world where this wasn't possible, I would not be in this privileged position to be working so swiftly and easily, because and I would have really had to sort of juggle both things together, and it wouldn't have necessarily been very easy. In
Mm.
this sense, it is, because I can just close my laptop and now I'm a student, and I open my laptop, now I'm a worker. So that's made it really, really easy. However, on the contrary, uh, as we were talking about costs as well, there is a huge cost to it, right? I spend, I think, 10 hours minimum a day on my screen, and that has a huge cost. Now, if maybe I'm in my 50s and I start to go blind, I'm not a doctor or eye specialist, so I wouldn't necessarily know, and I don't want to say anything like that. But who knows, right? As Verda was saying, right? You've got back problems. You used to have back problems when you were 50, 60. Now you're having it in late 40s, early 30s. Those are things that you need to really. So it's a cost benefit analysis of both things, as an economist would say. But then on the contrary, as I was talking about technology, people are bringing in steps to get rid of them. Right now, you've got specialized chairs where you can, they keep your posture straight. You've got PC monitors that have blue light technology that don't necessarily harm your eyes as much as they used to. So in a short sense, it has improved my life. Do I necessarily realize the cost right now? Not necessarily, apart from me just sitting in my laptop all day and not necessarily going outside as I would when I was younger, playing sports or hanging out with friends. But in short, I guess it is inevitable, and all of us have to deal with it. Um, and that's life, I guess. As humans, we are, as I would say, we are the masters of adaptation. Our From the start of from the first individual to step on this earth, we've adapted significantly from hunters, as I said, to
I'm
farmers and
perfectly
everything.
honest. Certainly, would just really like to hear a lot of you. But I think picking up one of the points from your talk, I would
Yeah,
definitely like to have views from Miss Yusuf now. Technology attracts technology. I think you can see on the screen as well that I've just put over there. You just said that okay, when a new technology is introduced, there are some incremental technologies that take place as well. You talked about a particular chair that adjusts your posture. So, Miss Yusuf, what's your take on it? Do you think that somehow, like Johanna said, that when he'll be like 50 years, or anybody from his generation would be 50 years, they would be having, God forbid, they would be having certain complications if those are not addressed. But don't you think that technology in terms of health care would have already evolved enough to actually not let that happen?
Well, so there are two parts to it: the world that we currently live in, and the world as we know it. I mean, we're talking about. So, if it was come worse, if God forbid, you lose eyesight, what's the worst that can happen, right? That's the best. That's the best thing that has happened to you, unfortunately, in that zone. But then, what do you go about doing? You probably get a transplant done, probably, or maybe when you're losing eyesight, you go for surgeries. There are laser technology involved. So there's so much that can happen alongside, yes, but at the same time, like I said, it's going to be becoming a business very soon. I mean, it already is. We already are talking about. We've had Baka lounges since so long, but the idea is this: is it going to be affordable for everyone? Number one, is it going to be something that will be introduced, let's just say, so if you try to relate it to something, it's like a virus that we know of, and in order to sort of abstain from it or take precautions, we're actually welcoming it in our lives, and then we're going to go for precautions eventually, and then eventually, of course, you'll be treating it the medical way. So there's not much awareness as well. How many of us are actually teaching our children to walk straight, or to be more athletic, or to be
Yeah.
reading from the book than from the screen, right? So there's so much to it. I mean, this is still, it's always going to be controversial. It's already become a business. Eventually, you and me, when we have understood the health value of, let's say, greens, have started working on our diets. After obesity has taken over the world, it has globally become a pandemic. Then only people started working on diets. I mean, keto came in, calorie diets, etc., etc., etc. My 12-year-old talks to me about how calorie count should be taken care of. I'm amazed how he watches what I'm eating and what he's eating and consuming. So I'm glad there's some awareness around, yes, but then there are some things that are inevitable. So maybe yes, there will be some redressal, there will be some components which will help you, but can you really replace the real eyesight? I mean, there'll be laser, but is laser really adoptable or affordable for masses? Not really. But then if Dana Kasta, God forbid, you lose eyesight for sure. So you are gone. I mean, you're literally disabled. So I think that's a very big opportunity cost we're talking about. Yeah.
Well, definitely. I will just add a couple of very important things. I was reading a book. It's called Live Wired. It's a different kind of a psychology. When there was a concept of neuroplasticity, that how our brain adapts to different situations and scenarios. You're just getting new ideas, you're getting new practices, new behaviors. So there is a new circuit in your brain. That's neuroplasticity. But he just came up with something else. I just saw an example where half of the brain of a kid was removed altogether, the right side of the brain, because of a disease, and the guy is still going strong after 25 years. The other half of the brain adjusted accordingly, and he can now do more than 95% of the tasks that a usual brain does. See, so this is how our body adapts to the changes, if we allow it to, of course. And then definitely how exactly this kind of screen exposure is affecting our organizational behavior. There is a lot of stress, there is a lot of issues are now being reported when it comes to organizational behavior. There are so many things, there's so much of a talk, everybody's trying to act a good leader, telling how a good leader works. But okay, the leader is a human being as well. They're also exposed to the same screens. Come on, they could be landing in a trouble, they could be having troubles with their eyesight. And how does this actually lead to a stressful mindset that may lead to a troubled organizational behavior or organizational culture, or the team members cannot just walk together? So Johanna, you have any take on that?
Yeah, I think comes close to home because of how my entire organization is remote only. So a lot of the times, what happens is that in terms of the convenience is there, right? It's very easy to open my laptop and work, but you get alienated. You feel lonely a lot of the times. There's no camaraderie. There's no sense of belonging. There's no sense of togetherness with your firm,
Hmm.
because you're meeting them once in 2 months at a company dinner or something. Um, I think that that does hamper productivity in a certain sense. I think that does influence the organizational structure, because it's very easy to be working at a desk, have an idea, and then just walk into your boss's office and just bounce it off them. Whereas if you're working on teams, you've got to schedule a team call because your boss right now is doing something, or his calendar
And
is
it's
in a
more like mechanistic, it's very mechanistic sort of a thing, that
it
okay,
is
do this, then do this, then do this. Nobody actually jokes around on Teams, right? Because you are being recorded all the times. Yeah.
It is. So someone like me who has entrepreneurial spirit and wants to bring in new ideas, it's very difficult for me because I'm okay. Well, I can't do this right now, and because there's someone's busy, or I can't necessarily use this time for that, and that hampers your workers' sort of
Efficiency.
innovation, right? Because you can't necessarily. It's not as easy as it was before. So those are the costs. Um, and that is something that I really struggle with at the current occupation I'm in.
Okay, that's pretty much a thing that you've actually brought in. So let's ask a leader that how exactly she would be managing the situation, and how exactly this can affect, and how exactly leaders extend a helping hand to their team members if they're working online, or even if in person as well. Of course, everybody, once we have gone through this Teams thing, gone through screens that you can work from home, this has changed things. So let's ask Ms. Yusuf how exactly it affects the leaders in certain way. How do you
Well,
manage them?
thank you so much for putting up that question. I think had you not asked, I would have definitely put in that as a point. So I love that comment coming from Johanna because I get it. I feel it. That humanistic approach is important. I find that the best of leadership skills that one can show has to be a hybrid of authoritative, etc., alongside the empathetic part of you. That's how you become a transformation leader. And I think I cannot begin my day if I cannot get to see my peoples, have a word with them, have a humanistic, contact with them, in which it's not all, like you said, mechanistic. Very right. It's all mechanical when it's on Teams. It's all, it's all just regimented the way you don't like it. So as humans, I mean, had it is if that's exactly what we're supposed to do, then how are we different from robots? That's one thing that sort of comes to me. So when we talk about technology as a stressor, we talked a lot about how physically it affects and everything, and of course the wrong side of it and the bad side effects, etc. What troubles me most as a person who's right now leading, let's just say, a proper regiment or a convoy, or this, I call my team my soldiers, right? So this becomes very difficult because sometimes you have to empathize, you have to meet people, you have to see them, and this becomes stressful. And of course, technology becomes a stressor because I cannot see the emotion. Sometimes you're not on screen, number one. Number two, you cannot be yourself entirely on a mechanistic, via a mechanistic approach on a laptop screen. No, not at all. This is something I feel has to change eventually. But then again, it does stress you out. You have to sit along with your people and meet them. So I try to just quickly give you an example. So there was a bank in Karachi. I remember back in the days, and we were talked about by our teachers and professors in the classroom, and they really nicely put in an example. So that man in the morning stopped these ladies group to stop talking in the morning and actually leave their tea because they'll sort of give like 40 minutes there on the tea on the morning in their morning tea at the workplace. And that sort of he just shunned it away. And sometime later a report came out and he found that the productivity overall had decreased. That morning meetup, meeting people, looking them in the eye, not being robotic, having those feelings and sentiments being shared, that sort of takes your goal and sense of purpose, sort of translates into better efficiency. So yes, this becomes a headache because I have found people not adopting it properly. Not everybody is a good manager with technology also, and then you find people stressing out over the fact because their schedule is messed up. Their sleeping time is not the right thing, and then there's so many ways they can fool around. And by fooling around I mean cheat around. And how does
Yeah,
that
thanks for the
happen?
clarification, by the way.
Yes. Sorry. So what happens really that you maybe you're not on the call, and you're pretending to be on the call for per se. So there's so many things that we find people doing, and then we have to catch them, and that becomes an aggressor. And then it sort of does not bring in that value system we wanted in our people. We wanted them to be true to us. They'd rather come and walk in my office and tell me what is it, rather than not, rather than just evade the call by some other means. So yes, it becomes stressful because I'm not able to be humanistic with my people. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So we had a take from somebody who's from Gen Z and a take from somebody who's from, of course, the millennials. In fact, the older millennials, I would say, myself included. So I think it's a fact that whatever we say, the words that we utter, it's hardly like 77% of the total communication that takes place. It's your body language and it's the tone of your voice that really matters, and the body language does, because sometimes people have stories written on their faces. Somebody's walking in your
Oh,
office, and it just feels like, okay, they're on time in the office, but probably their mind is still at home. Something has
Hmm.
gone wrong. You can't just simply tell it to your boss, okay, look, I'm not in the mood to work here.
Hmm.
So sometimes the leader has to actually look at the person, look at their body language, make them speak, get to know what exactly is the root cause, and probably they may just tell them, okay, you got to leave today. Just take a leave, maybe for today and tomorrow. Just go back, get the job done, get your family issue resolved, come back to me again, and then we can start working on that. But that doesn't happen when you're working from home. See, you're already at home. So honestly speaking, and then secondly, the people who are working from home and they have got families, they have got pets as well. I was watching a video, sometimes even on the channels and TV channels and news channels, when they used to report it, anything, their pets are coming in and just distracting. So that is now part of it. So Johanna, what's your take or your final words on this whole scenario? We're just closing in. We are at
yeah.
26
Didn't we
minutes mark.
during lockdown? Didn't we see that BBC video where this MP was sitting and doing a video when a maid walked in with their kid, and it was a whole thing.
Yes,
Um,
exactly, exactly,
we
exactly.
we've seen other videos where a kid comes in, so the individual who's doing the call has to stand up, and on the bottom of the suit he's wearing a short, right? So
Yeah.
um,
I've seen that
I'll tell
one.
you what, I've got my room locked from the inside, by the way. That somebody
Obviously,
doesn't
in
walk in.
Easy.
You see? Everybody,
yeah,
I think all three of us have some security mechanism in place right now. So somebody just
yeah,
doesn't simply
yeah.
barges
So,
in.
answer, I think that is with us, with people, with families and all. Let's
Yeah.
ask Johanna, what's his take on technology as a stressor on the whole? Right now, you're entering. I mean, you're single right now. You don't have a family or children right now or making noise. You don't have to worry about all that. What is your transition from your undergrad to, of course, this work life? Where tech you feel has become a stressor, because the other day we were mentioning the same reason, how in classrooms also we were used to writing and taking notes on copies and pencils, and now it is all transformed
Exactly.
onto iPads and your laptops. So how does that work out for you?
Yeah, I've got my iPad right here. I take notes on this. That's why the 10-hour mark comes in, right? Because you're working 4 hours for your job. That's 4 hours there. You have, let's say, 2 to 3 classes. So that's 3 4 hours. That's eight. And then you can't tell me that I don't deserve some Netflix at the end of the day. So that's 1 or 2 hours over there. That's 10 hours. And let's say there are 24 hours in a day. Let's say you sleep for eight. What's that if you do quick math? 18 hours. If in that 18 hours, if you're on the screen 10 hours, you're left with 8 hours. I think there needs to be some conversation on this, right? Because I think that's too much. That's more than half of the time you're awake for the day. Which is why I've now sort of resorted to making sure, manually trying to stop myself from doing it. Read a book, go out, um, just enjoy the air, right? Because I'm very privileged and fortunate because I live in the UK where I can actually go out and enjoy the weather. So because it's not burning hot, um, I have green air. My campus is really green, so I can enjoy that as well. These are things that I necessarily couldn't do when I was living in Karachi, for example. But you were saying something.
Yes, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much would you rate your stress? Just take a minute, think about it,
Yeah.
and give me a number on a scale of 10.
And
Where
don't
would
be
you
stressed
rate
about it,
your
yeah?
So,
where would you
stress is an interesting terminology, right? And I would like you to
just
define it
based
for
on
me.
technology right now in your life?
Sorry, sorry.
Just based on technology at this point in time. Yeah.
So
How big
when
is technology overall a stressor for you on a scale of 1 to 10 currently in your life?
when you say stressor, you mean just the generic stress and not necessarily stress to get into something or do something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah. See, and this might be very unrepresentative because I personally don't think technology is necessarily a big stressor for me.
okay, okay,
Because I don't necessarily, because I think I'm an optimist, so I look at these things in a very positive way. And so if I call technology as a stressor, that means I'm sort of being I'm not necessarily being fair on it, because I use a lot of it to get to the goals that I've reached today, or achieve objectives that I've done right now. In terms of, for instance, I want a career in investment banking, right? I'm not studying a degree that teaches me courses about financial models. So what do I do? So I go on YouTube or LinkedIn Learning and I learn about financial models and how to do valuations. So if technology was a stressor for me, I wouldn't be. I need technology. So I would put it low down, but I feel like at the end of the day, because I live alone and because I don't necessarily have a family, I don't think technology is a big stressor for me in the generic sense. Um, but I know for a fact that if I did have a family, if I had kids, if I had a wife, it would have been because I would have been on the computer while my kids were back there playing with Lego. And hopefully in the future, when I do have a family, I can adjust and pivot from the 10 hours on the screen to far less to spend that time with family.
Oh, great impression, Joanna. Seriously, and that was, honestly speaking, last part of your whole discussion, that was sort of what I would say encouraging. Okay, the how exactly your generation views the whole situation, and that was a very positive answer, by the way, for somebody, two of us who are from an older generation. It's very motivating that how you perceive. But
absolutely.
I wish we could continue. I wish we could continue for long because the discussion is so enriching and amazing. But again, we have to wrap things up at the end of the day. But before I proceed further, there is a contact number given on the screen for our viewers. That's our WhatsApp number. You can send us messages for inquiries regarding your trainings and keynotes. You can go to our LinkedIn page and see what kind of services do we offer, what kind of resources do we have, so we can literally help you a lot with your organizational development. And especially when it comes to artificial intelligence in the middle, we have very resourceful people here who know things and they know their trade very well. So for now, I'd really be very thankful to Johanna in specific, and of course to our creative head, Mr. Yusuf, for taking time out. And these 30 minutes, I believe, would be quite knowledgeable for the people who view it, who are already viewing, and the viewers. Thank you very much for your patience as well to coming to this long. For now, I'd be just signing off. So everybody, take care of yourself. We'll come up with something new very soon, probably the next week. Take care of yourself. Allah Hafiz.
Thank you, G. Thank you so much, Johanna. Thank you. It was very heartening to have this conversation with you. Thank you so much.
No,
Uh,
thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. I have a tendency of speaking a lot, so hopefully I didn't take all of the time.
we loved it.
No,
Trust me, we did.
we
We loved it.
seriously did. We
Brilliant,
seriously did.
brilliant,
It's a great
brilliant,
job done. Thank you very much for your time. Looking
brilliant.
forward
Thank
to
you.
have you again here.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. So thanks a lot, your viewers, for your patience. Certainly, we'll be looking forward to get back to you with a new topic. Till then, take care of yourself.